Hello, my name's Ben.
And my name is Josh.
And welcome back to FPL Graduates, and welcome back to another stream, another preview towards a game week. We're getting towards the end. It's the business end of the competition, and we're looking forward to another jam-packed week full of FPL madness, aren't we, Josh?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. It's been a non-double game week for the first time in a little while. So we'll take a look at the captaincy pick, show you guys our teams as well. We'll get through any questions you have. So it's going to be a decent little live stream. No YouTube videos this week, but they will be back next week. Don't you worry.
Yeah, we've got a couple of really good ideas in the pipeline. A new series that we're going to bring into the back end of this season and going to be bringing it to you next season as well. So don't you worry about that. We've got loads more content planned for the upcoming game weeks.
Awesome. So shall we crack in? We'll show you our scores from last week quickly, update you on our ranks, and then we'll get into the team and the captaincy picks for this week. Ben, do you want to go first?
Yeah, let me just get up my team for you guys. So this is what the team is looking like. We got 70 points this week, as you can see. We went from 94k to 80,000 in the world. So a nice little green arrow. It's been a while since we had one. And this is how the team was looking. Schmeichel in goal. I mean, I was buzzing. 8 points. You know, he's been teasing me with clean sheet potential, and he got it this week. So I'm buzzing about that. Defence was mixed bag, really. Laporte and Cancelo, I'm really disappointed that they conceded to Watford, the second worst attack in the league. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating because that could have easily been 2 6-pointers, maybe even a little bit more. Reece James, again, really unlucky how he didn't come out of that with a 10, 15-point haul in that game. He really could have got a lot more than the 2 points warranted. And you know, it bodes well for the next sort of at least one game week for Reece James. I feel like he's had a little bit of rest recently. He could play 2 or 3 in a row now from the start. Trent Alexander-Arnold, a bit frustrated that he only got the 5 points. He picked up a booking in that game, whilst Andy Robertson absolutely hauled and went to the moon. But Alonso was the pick of the week, really, wasn't he? 19 points. We wouldn't have thought that he was going to be the one to get the biggest amount of points in that double game week. But it turns out he did. 19 points. Really can't complain about that. If only Chelsea had sort of kept concentration after they scored against Man United. And who knows how many points that could have been. The port I've sort of brought up what I thought on 13-point haul to start off the game week was big. It was very, very big. Kind of set the tone for the game week very well. Mason Mount, it's bit annoying, really. Obviously, Jorginho missed that penalty. And if it wasn't Jorginho taking a penalty, it would be this man, Mason Mount. So I feel like I've been a little bit hard done by there. Mo Salah, 6 points. I'm happy with that. Happy that he just kept the points as low as possible this week because obviously his expected ownership was over 100%. And then up front, bit disappointing again from these two lads, Pukki and Kane. But I'm hoping next week that those two can sort of bring some sort of returns. On the bench, a strong bench, but didn't get too many points again this week. Nketiah, Gordon and Sarr. Not too concerned about the points, but it is a green arrow nonetheless.
Yeah, very, very good week for you. A big green arrow is what you needed as well, wasn't it? After that wild card, you getting in there. The Alonso pick was great. I mean, I know a lot of people didn't have Alonso. He wasn't too highly owned, to be fair, around 30% EO, which is a really nice big haul for him compared to all the other Chelsea lads. Didn't really get close. They were probably, 10 points behind him. So really nice to pick that one. I'll go into my team now, and then we'll get into your guys' questions after that, and then we'll show you our teams for next week and our best captaincy picks. So it's going to be an interesting one. Here's my team. We're looking at 69 points for me, -4, 65. It's the smallest of green arrows of 28k up to 26k, but we'll take it. You know, greens are green at the end of the day. So in goal, Sanchez. Brighton only keep clean sheets against top 6 teams, apparently. So, you know, a bit disappointed with him. And when he doesn't keep a clean sheet, he never gets save points. So it's going to be a 2-pointer or bust. In the defence, we had Thiago Silva with a 9-pointer. Again, like Ben said, if they just kept concentration, he would have been one of the picks of the week. Probably would have picked up some bonus in that game as well, because he seems to be on the bonus always when they keep a clean sheet. James, you've already touched on it. He was literally had, I think on SofaScore, it was like an 8.7 match rating, and the guy didn't get any returns. He was a joke. played so well, had so much space on that right-hand side for Chelsea because United can't mark anyone. So very good performance. Shame about the returns. I think everyone who owned James can feel hard done by. City defence, you touched on it. Why? How do they concede to Watford? It's so frustrating. Obviously, it's a big green arrow if they both get clean sheets for both of us. I did have, though, Andrew Robertson popping up with that 15-pointer against Everton. I was buzzing to see him score. He outplayed Trent, in my opinion, in the second half of the season by quite a margin in terms of FPL points anyway. So he's been great. I've gone without Trent and it's paid off so far. So I'm hoping you can continue to reap those rewards from Andy Robertson. Kai Havertz, captain, 1 assist. I actually feel so let down. This guy literally could have had a hat trick, and that's not even me over exaggerating. The guy had so many chances in that first half of the United game. So disappointed with just the assist, but hey, it's a return, so I can't be too sad. 8 points. It's not bad, but it could have been so much better if he scored in that first half. And then Bukayo Saka, the man of the moment, two returns in the early kickoff of Saturday. It was lovely jubbly. Salah, as he said, kept down the points. And then Brozier, man, what is he? He's a fraud, Brozier. Look at all of these 1 and 2 pointers. Ready? From Gameweek 25, it's literally just 2-2-2, 1-2-2, 0, 1-2-2. Awful. From Gameweek 25, he's coming out this week. Harry Kane as well. Tottenham not registered a shot on target in the last 2 fixtures in the Premier League. Not looking good, but they are definitely worth captaining. Maybe this game week, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then Dennis again on the bench with some points. You hate to see it, especially considering I had a double City defence starting. But yeah, that's the team. Up to 26k. Can I make top 10k? I doubt it. But hey, I've been around this rank pretty much all season. So I think this is probably where I'm going to end. What's your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those game weeks where you probably had to have Robertson or Alonso to get that green arrow. If you didn't have either of them, it's likely that it's a red arrow. So it's pretty good that you had him in. It's been fantastic the last few game weeks in particular. And yeah, it's a strong looking team. It's quite similar to how my wildcard team is set up. So it just goes to show that you've sort of planned your transfers quite well in that regard. But yeah, it's looking very strong for the upcoming game weeks.
Yeah, it's not too bad. We'll obviously talk about our teams in a moment. We'll go through your guys' questions now. So if we come out of this, here we go. We're going to see Emerson. Is he a good option? If not, who's a good option for under 4.7 million?
It's a tough one. I'd say he's a good option, but not a great player. Emerson, I've not really been too impressed by him. I think there's better options around that price bracket. Like if you're looking at under 4.7, you could potentially look to Ashley Young as a better option for the fixtures, especially. He's got Norwich at home, and then he's got a couple of double game weeks, and especially with Digne out, could be a really good differential. And I know, FPL Mates picked him out as one of his spicy differentials of the week. So I think he's a potential one to look out for. But yeah, like I said, I think Emerson's a good option, but there are better ones for me out there.
I'd 100% agree with that. Is asking for his opinions on his team. Ramsdale, Cancelo, Robbo James, Saka, Havertz, KDB, Maddison, Son Pukki, and Watkins. Looking to get Trent next week. I think the glaring obvious thing there is that he's got no Salah. Obviously, probably got away with it the last few weeks. He's been misfiring compared to his usual standards in FPL. Would you say that? What's your opinions on Salah? Is he a must at the moment, or could you have KDB if you want to try and chase those ranks?
I don't think it's like completely silly to not have him, but I think you'd have to have KDB instead of him. I think it's one or the other. Obviously, a lot of people with their sort of squads can't afford to have both. So I'd say it's not an obvious mistake. I think it's one for the chasers. If you're chasing rank, I think it's the best option to go for. Maybe I should consider it, but I think as well, you've got to look at, yes, over the last sort of 10 or so game weeks, De Bruyne has outscored the other City boys by sort of a hefty margin. He's maybe got double the amount of points, but Pep roulette rotation is always a risk, and you can never know which player is going to start getting into form. We've seen this over the season. First 10 game weeks, Bernardo, then it was on to Mahrez, now it's on to KDB. It could be a different player for the final few game weeks of the season.
Yeah, and another thing you got to factor in as well is the price. If you're going for someone like Foden, he's 7.5. You're going for KDB, he's like 11.5. So that's what, £4 million. You could, for example, you could change that Ashley Young pick to a Robertson, for example. Like it's that much money that you can spread elsewhere. Similar sort of question: KDB or Salah for the run-in? Currently sitting at 140k. Is it worth the risk? I'll talk about this one quickly as you mentioned it. I think if you are unhappy with your rank or you need to chase your mini league rivals, I think going De Bruyne over Salah is definitely worth it. I think we're going to see an equal amount of rotation in terms of minutes, not necessarily starts, but I think minutes. So I think it's definitely worth it. I could see De Bruyne starting against Leeds and then getting taken off early if they wrap it up pretty swiftly. Same with Salah against Newcastle. I think he could also get taken off pretty early there as well. It's just something you're going to have to deal with in this run-in. That's why maybe the Spurs boys are better captaincy options this week, given the fact that they aren't going to get taken off early because they don't have anything to play for elsewhere. So they're still fighting for top 4 as well, but then they have been playing poorly the last 2 weeks. So you got to weigh up these pros and cons. For me personally, if I was at 150k, I would maybe look towards doing that De Bruyne move personally. I'm not, so it's probably an easy decision for me to say sitting here. But I think there is a lot to lose though if Salah goes big and De Bruyne does nothing. So you just got to weigh up the risk. And if you don't care, then just go for it. But if you do sort of care, I would stick with Salah. He's always the safe bet, any bet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a big risk for me. Even at my rank, I don't think it's worth it. I think there's better options available, and they're better alternatives in that City team than there is better options available in that Liverpool team. If you look at sort of the other options you got Jota and Diaz, and that's about it. Maybe Sadio Mane as well, but you know. The two of the three are potential rotation risks anyway. One of the two starts, the other one gets benched every week. So I'd say it's less risky going for the Salah pick.
Awesome. Liam's asking, should he keep or sell Pookie? I'm actually looking at getting Pookie in. So I think that sort of tells what you should do. Obviously they're doubling in 36 Norwich. What's your thoughts on Pookie? You own him. Obviously not really scored since United, but he's still a decent option, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got him in, and I'm looking at sort of potentially benching him this week. Villa away, it's a little bit of a difficult one. Like Villa have looked defensively quite sound, but then again, they haven't looked great going forwards. This Villa team, and it could be by game week 36, they could be just like already relegated, and they could just go for it and just attack teams. You look at the double that they have as well; it's not a bad double. We've got Norwich, who've got home to West Ham, who have been depleted by this Europa League run, and then they've got Leicester, who again European competition. So I think Pookie's a good shout. The less that you can spend on your strikers, the better. Apart from the obvious Harry Kane, so looking at the likes of Pookie is definitely a good option to go for.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it's not much better than Pookie. You could look to Nketiah, but I still think he's not a great option personally. I think you could have Saka and still be quite happy with the returns you get from him. Shiv's in the house. How you doing, mate? He's saying Captain Trent this week. Opinions. I don't know for Captain Trent. If facing Newcastle, they've been getting quite a few goals from everywhere as well. You can't even pinpoint where they're scoring from at the minute. Do you think they're going to get a goal against Liverpool?
It is against every rule in the classic FPL manager's rulebook to captain, first of all, a defender in FPL. Second of all, in the early kickoff. Thirdly, against the second most informed team in Europe after Liverpool. It's a bit of a risk if you ask me. I see Newcastle scoring, especially as Liverpool are away. If it was at home, I'd see the argument, but for me, like that is such a big risk to take.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really tricky game for Liverpool, more tricky than people maybe think. I think Newcastle, if they win their games in hand, obviously it's a big ask. They've got City and Liverpool, but they're like level on points with United, which is crazy considering where they were at the start of the season. So they're doing really well second half of the season. For me, I'd stay clear of defensive Liverpool captains with that Robbo Trent. Liam's asking who the best captaincy option is this week. we will discuss that after we show our teams in a moment. Another question here. Do I do Doherty to Young or Son to Kulusevski and get Trent? Already have Roberto. For me personally, I don't think the Liverpool double up in defence is a necessity. I see a lot of people on Twitter have it. I think personally you can get into the Chelsea and the City defences for a lot cheaper. And Trent's not really been getting too many attacking returns. So that 8.5 odd million price tag is not really reaping the benefits at the minute. What's your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, I think you can get away with one or the other if you're sort of trying to maintain your rank. If you're looking to attack it and you think that's the best way of doing it, by all means, go ahead and do it. But I think, trying to force Trent into your team when you already have Robertson, I think you can make some moves elsewhere that would benefit you better. Like you said, like even the Son's Kulusevski, like it's a bit of a sideways move to get Trent in. And I think, I'd rather have Son, Robertson than sort of Kulusevski and Trent. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Do you think Nketiah will start over Lacazette for the rest of the season? I think he personally will. There's no reason to drop him, in my opinion. But I could see, I don't know if he starts every game, but I could see him starting the majority of the games, that's for sure. I think he's played well.
We've seen as well, like since Arteta's been in management, he is very much a new manager in the Premier League, and he doesn't change a winning formula. We've seen this so many times. Once he starts winning, getting on a roll, he doesn't generally change his team when it's winning. And that's the key thing to take away from that. Since Nketiah's come in, Arsenal have won every game. So I don't see a reason for him to be dropped. It's literally like the only way he will is if Arsenal lose and Nketiah sort of has a bad game, then I can see it happening. But for now, Nketiah, it's his place to lose.
Yeah, and a few people asked on the TikTok Live about Saka. He is fit. He will play. He's been in training. Arteta's come out saying that he should be fit to play. So I would not worry your head about that one. We'll do this last one from Lewis, and then we'll crack on to our teams. Then we'll go into some questions and then back into the captaincy to finish things off. Option on -8, Brozier, Mount, Trent out for De Bruyne, Fofana and Dennis. Chasing ranks, looking at Liverpool's fixtures, I can't see many clean sheets in there. So again, sort of touching on that Trent decision, I think Brozier is a definite get rid of. Mount, I think he plays this week, to be honest. I think he's the only Chelsea attacker that does play out of the traditional Werner, Havertz and Mount. De Bruyne, maybe rotation risk, same with Fofana. So it's a bit of a difficult one, that, eh?
Yeah, I'd say don't force your way into the ideal team you want at this point. We've gone past almost the taking the hits every week to benefit your team for the long run, because a lot of those hits taken earlier on in the season were due to the fact that we've got these game weeks coming up. So I think taking a hit so close to a double game week where so many teams are doubling might not be beneficial. So I'd potentially look at maybe just bringing out Broya for someone like a Dennis or an Nketiah or a Pukki, and maybe trying to save the amount of hits that he's taken so late on into a season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think the Mountain, Trent, De Bruyne, Fofana, it could go either way. It's not set in stone that those players will outscore, and that's what you need when you're taking a -8. You need those players to be injured or something like that, so they're not going to get points to outscore. So yeah, we'll move on. And Ben, have you got your team ready for next week?
Yeah, so my team for this game week is going to be as follows. Just bring it up here. So my goalkeeper for this week is Ben Foster. As you guys know, it's between Foster and Schmeichel. Schmeichel has a bit of a toughie against Spurs, so I back Ben Foster. Burnley at home. It's their last chance really to sort of salvage their season somewhat, and I think Ben Foster, he could get a clean sheet in this one. I'm very much sort of on the fence with this. It's a tough goalkeeping decision this week. I think Schmeichel picks up a couple of save points, but I think Foster's more likely for the clean sheet. And I think his expected ownership is going to be a little bit higher than Schmeichel due to so many people having Foster and Schmeichel. So that's my thoughts on that. We're sticking with the back five. We've got Cancelo, Trent, Alonso, Laporte and James. I'm unsure about the Chelsea lads, but I'm going to have to go through with it because if they start, there's potential for holes in there and I don't want to miss out on them. So I think it's the safest way to go. I'm looking to roll my transfer this week. I was really unsure whether I should make the James to cash transfer this week. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to wait next week. it means I have 2 free transfers to attack the double game week. And I think it's crucial at this point in the season to sort of be able to attack a game week like that. I already have 15 doublers for double game week 36. So it's basically just fine tuning it for next week. If there's any injuries, it makes it really easy having 2 free transfers. So moving on to the midfield, Saka, Mount and Salah. Again, I think Saka could feast against West Ham. Yes, Zuma's back, but Dawson, I believe, is suspended. So it's not many centre-backs available for West Ham. And Zuma didn't look his normal self last night at all. Mount, I'm expecting to start. Out of those 3 Chelsea boys, I think he starts. I also do think Reece James starts. I think Alonso is the one for me that is at most risk of being dropped for this game. Yep, Salah, vice captain. I've not captained him this week. I just have a feeling that he might get limited minutes this week. And I also think that Newcastle game is very, very tough. It's very tough for Liverpool. And they're going to nullify someone like Salah. In my opinion, it could backfire and he could score a couple of goals. But I think for the early kickoff, I'd rather not. And then up front, we've got Harry Kane, captain, and Nketiah up top. Again, I know Josh, not too sure on that Nketiah pick, but I really do like how he's playing. On the eye test especially, he's looking very good. And Kane, I'm expecting to bounce back. They've had a full week training. Leicester played a really tough game against Roma. So I'm expecting wholesale changes in that Leicester team. So I think Harry Kane could get a decent run out here. And Leicester, his record against them is unbelievable. He's scored a ridiculous amount of goals against them. So I'm going to have to back him for this week. And I think his expected ownership is going to be higher than a lot of people think. I think it's suggested that it could be between 50 and 60%. I'm thinking it's going to be more like 80 or 90% expected ownership this week for someone like Harry Kane. On the bench, a little bit of a benching headache. I was to and froing, but I think this is the best way to do it. I've gone Sarr first on the bench. He was starting ahead of Reece James, and then I thought, no, I can't do that. Sarr's going to stay on the bench for me this week. His expected ownership is basically nothing for me. And then Pookie and Gordon rounding it up for the week. So that is the team. Josh, what are your initial thoughts on it?
It's interesting that you've gone for James over Sarr. Not necessarily James in general, but I think Sarr against Burnley is a decent little fixture. So I'd probably look to try and get it in there. I don't know where. I think you'll probably see him come off your bench anyway.
Yeah,
there's going to be some. Yeah, I was going to say there's going to be some benchings. Cancelo's bound to start. We know that because he obviously was rested due to suspension in the Champions League. I think between Alonso and James, I don't see them both playing. So I'll talk a bit about that when I come to my team as well. But I think the whole of it looks great. And like you said, you've got your strong bench there anyway. So if you do get rotation issues, you'll be more than set up to cover that.
Yeah, I think the likelihood as well of Chelsea making 2 defensive changes if they both don't start, very low. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm half expecting Sarr to come off the bench and hopefully he does well. Should we move into your team, Josh?
Yeah, we'll go into it now. So I have got here in goal, as I slated him earlier. We're going with Sanchez there in net. Wolves away. I just think Wolves just don't score a lot. Like, they don't create a lot. I'm just hoping that maybe, the odd occasion where Brighton play a non-top 6 side, they might keep a clean sheet. So he's in net for me. We're going with a back 5, just like you, 5-3-2. Robbo against Newcastle. I've picked Robbo over Trent for quite a while now, and he's like I said earlier, he's been doing the bits. So hoping for the same. Wouldn't mind a Liverpool clean sheet wipeout, to be honest, just to wipe out that Trent EO. Cancelo, like I said, should start. I expect Laporte to start as well. There's no Stones and no Kyle Walker still for Man City, so that sort of limits options in terms of rotation in their back line. They still got Zinchenko, Aki, Diaz. So there's a slight chance of Laporte getting rested, but I just don't think it happens. Reece James, like you said, he might start, he might not. I've seen a lot of predictions with him not starting. It wouldn't shock me either way, to be honest. It's just the way it's been this season. He's been so injury prone that it wouldn't shock me if Tuchel does rest him. Thiago Silva, I've seen in a few predictions, but I think he could get rested. He's been playing far too many games in a row, and we tend to see him get rested. And I think Everton away is a game where if Chelsea did lose, it wouldn't be too too bad for them. So I think that's definitely a possibility. Into midfield, as I said earlier, Saka's in training. I expect him to play against West Ham away, and I expect him to do quite well. West Ham have been really quite poor defensively. Obviously, not a lot of defenders available. And Saka on that side against Cresswell. We saw he's quite defensive inept. He's good going forward for West Ham, but he's not great at the back. So I think Saka will take control of that. Like you said with Salah, I could easily see him being either benched or just rotated in terms of minutes. So he's on my vice as well. Havertz, again, I expect him to get rotated. There's going to be a lot of rotation this week. He didn't play really that well. He had so many chances in that United game that he should have won the game for Chelsea. And you could see Tuchel's frustration on the touchline. So I think he definitely gets benched. I think we could see the likes of Pulisic, Lukaku, those sort of guys starting this week. And then Kane captain, like you said, I love his record. I think he's only blanked once in his career against Leicester so far. I don't expect that to happen twice. They're at home. Like you said, Leicester wholesale changes. If he doesn't get any returns, I'd be devastated. Dennis up top with him. Burnley at home. Can he make it 3 returns in 3 game weeks? Hopefully he can. Probably not, though, considering I'm not benching him this week. So he will probably blank against Burnley. But that's going to be a really good game, I think, for Burnley down at the bottom. Obviously, Ramsdale, West Ham away. Could be a good shout for clean sheets, but I just think they might play Bowen and Antonio, or at least one of them anyway. So he will be sitting there for me. Cornet, I haven't really checked up on his injury status, but he could be a transfer out for me. I've not decided what transfer. I might roll. I might keep it. I'm not too sure yet. But Cornet's on the chopping blocks. He doesn't have a double in 36. Brozier, like I said, is also on the chopping blocks. He's just pony. And then Dewsbury Hall will be there as a little enabler / doubler in 36 and 37. So, yeah, I think it's not a bad team. What's your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, it's, again, similar to me. There's a lot of risk with rotation with this team for probably 3 players, and it's probably the 3 Chelsea boys that you're looking at.
Yeah.
So to have players that you know are going to play on the bench is probably a benefit. But then again, Leicester, Dewsbury Hall, Broya, there's a couple of players there at least that you can expect to come off the bench. Cornet, I haven't seen too much on that, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, there's potential for that team to do really well, and there's potential for that team to just end up you having 10 players playing this week. It could go either way. So I don't think it's going to be a defining game week for many managers, but I think it's one that you just got to make sure that you're sort of keeping steady. Have you been tempted to make any transfers this week?
Yeah, I've had a little play. I've seen with Havertz, obviously, I don't expect him to play at all, to be honest, against Everton. So I've been looking at those City midfielders, but it's too difficult to decide who's going to play. Yeah. I've seen a few people say Foden will play. I've seen other people say Foden won't play. And he's the only one that I'd probably like to get in for that sort of price anyway. I don't see Mahrez playing. He played quite poorly against Madrid, I thought. He had so many chances. There's a Grealish, but again, do I want Jack Grealish? He's been so poor this season in terms of output. So you come down to the likes of Sterling, and then maybe like Gundogan, Bernardo Silva. It just doesn't really excite me, and I think I'd rather hold Havertz for that double in 36, where I think he'll play at least one of the 2. And then I could focus on maybe sorting out this bench a little bit with Cornet potentially injured, Brozier not in good form. So I think either Brozier to Pukki or Nketiah, one of those 2, a cheaper alternative striker, or Cornet to maybe, I'm not even sure, in that mid-range midfield bracket at the minute, maybe Gordon for the double in 36 and 37. I've also looked at Jacob Ramsey as well. I think he's gone under the radar quite a bit since obviously he blanked in the last few weeks, but we've seen what he can do against those sort of lower teams, especially Norwich. Last time he played Norwich, he came away with a brace. So I think, he's definitely on my radar as well.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And yeah, it could be a big week for rotation. So obviously don't get too down if your players are benched and sort of don't play. Just make sure that you've got a couple of players on the bench there that you know are going to come off and do well for your team. But yeah, what are we getting into next, Josh?
We'll do some quick questions that these guys have been waiting for, and then we'll just talk about captaincy a little bit more. Obviously, we've both gone Kane, and we'll explain a little bit more so about that. Liam's asking best striker option below 5.5 for Gameweek 36. So I sort of think this is about like Mateta / Nketiah I don't know if there's many more options than that. Maybe like the Leeds boys, but then you're getting into real dangerous territory down there. Let me have a look at the price. I'm gonna have to have a look because I'm not really sure myself.
I would say Nketiah is probably the best pick to go for. Like, if you look at the fixtures in Game Week 36, Leeds at home is just the prime fixture that you want to have. And then Spurs away, like we've seen North London derbies, they can be goals in that. So I'd probably say those two. You know, if you're looking at any others, I know Rodriguez sort of picked up a knock for Burnley. He could be one that you could look at. But yeah, like there's not too many options at that price point this year. So it's sort of just taking the punt and taking the pick and just seeing what happens. There's not too many nailed on ones under 5.
I think at that price point, it's unquestionable that you have to go with Nketiah. I think Mateta doesn't even double in 36. He's got double in 37. He also has the risk of getting his minutes managed as well, which is something that we've seen with Edouard. Edouard's been coming into the picture a little bit more now. So, yeah, I think Nketiah is the man to go for if you're choosing that low of a price. If you can stretch to 6, I'd probably go Pookie, but not at that 5.5. Shiv saying he said he'd captain Trent, but Trent and Robbo to save money and have a stronger bench boost for 36. I think like we said earlier, I would be happy. Well, I am happy not owning both of them. I think you can get away with having Robbo over Trent, and I think you just got to put up with some weeks that Trent will outscore Robbo, and some weeks Robbo will outscore Trent.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts? Are you on the same boat?
I think that move in particular is a sideways move, and I think like if you could save that transfer to be able to be more manoeuvrable with 2 transfers heading into 36. I think that's a better option than moving Trent on this week and then making a transfer next week, because you're almost wasting a transfer whereas like next week, say you could make 2 transfers on 2 other players that one of them picked up an injury this week. So I think it's more beneficial sort of holding that transfer until next week.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd make the Trent to Robbo switch like you said there. And he also asked, he has both Mount and Havertz, but I'd rather have a strong bench for next week than both. If I take one out, who should I take out? I'd say take out Havertz. I have a strong feeling he will get rested this week. So, and Mount is the minutes man anyway. We know that Mount plays like almost all the games for Chelsea, so I'd be shocked to see him get rotated over Havertz anyway. I'm not sure about your thoughts, Ben.
Yeah, I'd prefer having Mount in my team than Havertz. Like, I think Havertz just more of a rotation risk, especially if Werner picking up a little bit of form. They've got so many options up top. So I'd say, yeah, if I was going to get rid of one, it'd be Havertz, and I'd probably have one or the other. I wouldn't have both again in this situation.
Yeah, it's mainly for that double in 34. Dylan's asking about the captaincy, so we shall move on to the captaincy now. Obviously, people asking is Son and Kane or Salah. Obviously, a few outside the box picks with Saka and stuff like that. So, Ben, talk us through why you've gone for Harry Kane over Mo Salah.
So, first of all, Harry Kane's record, like I said, he scored 16 goals against Leicester City. Like, that's ridiculous. I think in about 13 games. So his goal record speaks for himself. Yes, they're in a little bit of poor form, haven't scored in a couple of games, but it's been against teams that have, low block, just sitting back. And I think Leicester could be a team that could try and go at Spurs a little bit more than teams have done. So I think that suits Conte's style a little bit more. Leicester, they've been a little bit shaky defensively, and they're going to be making so many changes from their midweek tie. They've had a really tough week against Jose Mourinho's Roma side. So I think they're going to make a lot of changes. And at the back as well, could be a bit rusty. Spurs as well have had a full week rest compared to Liverpool, who again played midweek. So I think, the fixture is actually nicer for Spurs than it is for Liverpool. I think Liverpool got the tougher fixture. And you're looking on the other side as well. Newcastle are the second most informed team in the league behind Liverpool right now. It's a really tough fixture. It's away from home against a team that's flying. So I think it's almost a no-brainer for me. But obviously, Mo Salah is Mo Salah. Going against him is obviously going to be that risk.
I definitely agree with everything you said there. I think it's something you got to weigh up. If you're really scared about protecting your rank or protecting your mini league advantage or something like that, then you go Mo Salah, you sort of protect it. in that vein. But if you want to sort of chase a little bit or just go outside the box, I think Kane and Son is perfect to do that. They both will be under 100% EO. Salah wouldn't shock me to be over 100%. I think it's an easy pick to captain Salah against anyone other than the top 6 sides, and he's usually over 100% anyway in those situations. So, yeah, Harry Kane. It's not the early kickoff as well, which means your weekend doesn't get ruined until Sunday, which is good because it's a bank holiday weekend. So I would personally go Kane if I had to choose, or Son if you have Son instead of Kane. We'll answer one more question and then we'll wrap things up for this game week preview. I'll be live tomorrow on TikTok too at the deadline. So if you've got any last minute questions, we'll be over there too. Will Foden play this weekend from Harry Hill? Ben, gun to your head. Is he starting? Yes or no?
No.
Big call. I'm going to go and say yes. So I'm glad we can help you out in that massive decision that you've got to make.
We've really helped you out there.
I think he plays, but I don't think he gets all the minutes. So I don't know if he's worth the transfer in, especially for someone like a Havertz or a Mount, where in Game Week 36, I think you'll see an equal output between the City midfielders and the Chelsea midfielders. So I'd probably look elsewhere if I was choosing Phil Foden. That's my thoughts. Although I do think he does play. So
I think he plays a part in the game, but it's just how many minutes. I don't think he starts. But, he's played 90 against Real Madrid at 21 years old or 22, however old he is now.
Exactly. He's a spring chicken. He can run around loads.
I see it.
Anyway, that wraps up Game Week 35's preview. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Make sure you check out all of our socials. They are below us here. And then, as I said, more YouTube content will come next week. It's just been a bit of a mental one, this one.
Yeah. Please make sure, if you like the video, give it a like. Go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The charge is on. We're getting subscribers left, right, and centre. So thank you guys for subscribing and supporting the content. And as always, I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys